Yo, what's up? Welcome to another Thursday Night Grind. It's August 27th, 2020, and we're on episode 35. I had to write it down. I kind of lose track. Anyway, today is going to be fun because I'm going to do two things. One is a Damascus blade, which is cool. We're going to talk about Damascus a little bit and at least my understanding of it. And then the other thing was that the customer, when they dropped it off, said, sharp, sharp, sharp is all they want. And then I got a little note here too. I would like them so sharp, tomatoes will have nightmares thinking about them. Because it is tomato season, which is actually a great marketing ploy for us sharpeners, because fresh tomatoes with a bad knife is a nightmare compared to fresh tomatoes with a blazing sharp knife, where it's just like so awesome. Take the cherry tomatoes, like two in my hand on the cutting board, and just draw my knife across them, and they're like, they're cut, right? You know what I'm talking about. Like, you've done it. Like, and you're squishing your cherry tomato, your cutting board covered in seed. Anyway, we're gonna get these blades sharp, sharp, sharp. I want to talk through, like, it's not just the regular. Like, I want to talk through like what that means to me, right? Before I do that, this Thursday Night Grind and all of them until I get a sponsor with deep pockets is brought to you by the Guild of Professional Sharpeners, which you can learn more about at guildofsharpeners.org. And I do want to let you know about some stuff that has been going on there this week. There's a lot, man. It's awesome. First off, Rix, Steven, and Vic, welcome, right? More people. The way the idea of a community works is the more people doing it, the more valuable the community is. So I'm excited that we're growing, and it's awesome. In addition to some new people, we are still in the guerrilla marketing theme for August of 2020. So one big thing that I really think about is that marketing is telling your story. And just recently, like, I just told a story about like how there was somebody here doing some work for me in my house, and like we got to go and I was telling my story and it led to business, right? And if we do that purposefully and deliberately, that can be outstanding marketing. We also had a discussion around naming a business, and I have shared my thoughts with that. Inside the Guild of Professional Sharpeners, I have a course, The Foundations for Success in a Sharpening Business, and in one of those sessions, I do share my full opinion on naming a business, but we had an additional discussion around that inside amongst all the guys in the guild. And there was some conversation about wavy shears, which I actually have some. So this was convenient too because John had some of these in. See that wavy pattern there on these head shears? What do you do about that? So we got to have a good discussion about that, and I'll be doing those soon. And anyway, so it's fun to be able to, there's several of us that are doing those, and we talk through different ways to do it. And I just think about that, like that's the power of the guild, right? Like when you're trying to do this, it is so hard to know everything, and it is so convenient that when you get something across the bench that you're not familiar with or comfortable with, or even if a customer reaches out to you and like texts you a picture, like you can send it and like we'll like, yeah, man, like, and because we build relationships, like I know what tools John has in his shop, so I'd be like, yeah, like here's what I think you can do it, man, and here's the way I recommend you doing it. And then the whole other process too, right? Like cleaning it up, lubricating it, wiping it down. Like, here's how you deliver that $16 job to that person for that tool, right? And I think that's the value of it. We also had a discussion about strops, like moving off of the like the marketing thing or the shears. We also started talking about strops. I don't personally do a lot of stropping, although I did just recently strop my neck knife. And Doug was asked some questions about stropping. He's got a little bit more experience stropping, so he put together some content for us to consume on that, which I found very helpful. And I would like to get better at stropping. I'd like to learn more about it and the compounds and everything. So I think that's awesome too. And lastly, all right, finally, we're gonna go sharpen a knife real soon. Lastly, one thing I'm really excited about coming up tomorrow is we are going to be hosting a Zoom for the whole guild. We're gonna just call it Shop Talk, right? Like everybody's invited to come, and like we're gonna meet like virtually in person, but I feel like doing that, my plan is at the moment to do it on a monthly basis. It helps us kind of get to know each other better so that when we're communicating and asking questions inside the guild, it can be even that much more personal. So I'm really excited to be able to offer that. And if you don't know, the Guild of Professional Sharpeners is hosted in Mighty Networks platform, which is really awesome. I think that it's a couple things going on. It's relatively new, but it's been around long enough so that it is established, and they're doing really good work with it. My opinion is that it really reflects the future of community, groups, and education. And I would go on too long if I went into that right now, but I love what they're doing. The platform is outstanding. And what they have done recently is integrated directly with Zoom so that we host events, and it's all right there on the Mighty Networks platform inside the guild, but it's using the most powerful video conferencing software available. It's just awesome, man. Like, it's awesome. Okay, so let's go to the bench. Before I talk about the things I want to do to get that blade sharp, 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 I want to talk about some things that I look at and I hear, and just how I have adapted my own understanding of Damascus. I'd like to start by saying that I think that there is at least some, if not a lot, of confusion around Damascus out there. And it's possible that I'm also confused. So I'm going to share my thoughts on it, and you can let me know in the comments if you think I'm confused or if you think I'm not confused. Because I will confess, I'm not a knife maker. I'm a knife sharpener. I'd love to start making knives. I just haven't prioritized that yet. Okay, so the first thing is, what is this stuff? It is ultimately at least two types of steel, two dissimilar metals, and my understanding is sometimes they'll throw like a sheet of nickel in there because it adds this character to it. But it's forge welded, it's laminated, it's welded again, it's laminated, it's welded again, it's laminated. Like, so you just keep stacking it till you get, like, I don't know, hundreds of layers of these steels. And then you can do cool stuff like hammer it out, draw it out, drill it, like do all this cool stuff to get these epic patterns. And it creates a very visually stimulating piece of steel. And then you turn that piece of steel into a blade. So Damascus, my understanding here, is a process, not a steel. So you could make a Damascus knife out of garbage knife steel, right? Or you could make a Damascus knife out of outstanding steel. Or you could make a piece of Damascus and then laminate it and have like a sanmai with some sort of high quality, high carbon cutting steel in the middle, sandwiched by this beautiful looking Damascus. Like, there's a lot of ways to cut it, but the bottom line is that when you're given a Damascus knife, that doesn't necessarily mean it's an awesome knife. It could, like, it. I also think that the making Damascus is like it is an art beyond the simple art of designing and making a knife. Okay, so I don't know what steel this is. But whatever, like, I'm going to assume that if somebody, like, here's an assumption, right? If somebody took the time to make Damascus, I assume that they would choose the best steel that they could while confidently coming out with a good product, right? So it happens also, like, now you have all these layers of steel. And then when you, like, during the process of heating and quenching, when you quench the blade, there's a possibility, if it was not welded perfectly, that it delaminates. And now all that work is for nothing. Okay, so we are a couple things going on there, right? The Damascus is not necessarily the steel, right? So it kind of depends on what the knife maker, or at least the Damascus maker, decided to use for steels. And because it is so awesome, the next point I want to get to is that there are companies that'll shortcut the process, and they will etch. They'll make a knife and then etch on a Damascus pattern on it. So one thing I've done, and you can tell me about this too, is I look at the spine. And if I'm seeing just a flat piece of steel on the spine, then I'm like, I don't know. But on this case, this is one where I can see that the Damascus pattern is matched up here. And I don't know, maybe the etching companies would do that too, or not. I guess it's just something I don't know enough about. but I do think that it is beautiful stuff. And those are some, I hope that addresses some of potential confusion in the space of Damascus. And if it turns out that I am still confused on any of those points, please let me know. Okay, so now the next step is, how are we going to get this knife sharp, 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 so that tomatoes quiver in fear at the thought of confronting it? Okay, so what does that mean, right? Like, I could just do a standard 21 degree bevel at 1100 grit, and like, that's blazing sharp. That's sharp, sharp, sharp. That's good. But if the customer is asking for that, and it's not the first time I've worked with this customer, I think I might, push the limits a little bit. So why don't we first cut a shallower bevel on the belt, and then worst case scenario, we're going to have a compound bevel, which is going to make an even better cutting experience, at least in theory. And then why don't we do a shallower bevel for the cutting edge instead of 21? What do you think? Like, do we want to go to 18? Do you want to push it? You want to go to 15 degrees? Let's see how this does on the belt, and let's see how it feels at 15 degrees. But I might try it. I might try a 15 degree bevel on this thing. And then instead of finishing at 1100, we could push that a little bit. You want to go to 23? You want to polish this? Take it right up to 4,000? Yeah, I mean, that's what's going through my head when a customer drops off something like this and is like, I want this to be ridiculously sharp. I have to make a choice, right? Because there's no real guidance in that. So I'm going to make the choice to, I think anyway, like I change my plan a lot as I'm working across a knife, working through the process. But I think I want to, give a higher performing edge, and maybe inform them that with that higher performing edge comes greater responsibility in knife care, which means hand washing, stowing in a block, using it on a cutting board properly, and using a hone properly to maintain that edge. So that's the way I think I'm going to approach this blade, and in the next few clips I will just walk you through that process. So we're going to go over to the belt now, and then we'll be on the Edge Pro here soon, and that's that. So let's do it. Relatively speaking, this is a thick spine. There's a lot of metal here, and it's not like, I can feel that it. So if you do this, it's flat, 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 taper, flat, flat. So it's not a total flat ground. Like, it is tapered. It's thick, pretty far down on the edge. And then what you can see is when I'm going shallow on the belts, I was going shallow and I'm way up here. I'm not even near the edge. So now I need to make a judgment call. Like, am I cool with that? I'm cutting quite a bit of steel, but I think I am, because I was told to make this sharp, sharp, sharp. So I'm going to make this shallow. I'm going to give a finer edge on that. And I might not go quite as shallow as I was, and I'll have to tolerate the marks that I made. We'll see. We'll blend that in. All right, back to it. Okay, checking back in. Did you see the sparks coming off this? That's the sparks. So there's some carbon in here. And I was wondering that too. I did notice some coloration here. Yeah, you can see that. I don't know if that's rust or not. It's kind of hard to tell. There's no surface feature to it, which kind of throws me off a little bit. But I think it might be. But the bottom line is that there is a higher degree of carbon content in this than with some other knives that some stainless knives, clearly, right? And then the other thing to notice is that the bevels aren't the same, and like, I'm doing it by hand, right? So you could call me out on that, but I've done enough knives, I can tell that my angles were about the same, and I was way off the edge over here, and pretty close over here. So what we're going to end up doing here is giving this an even, asymmetrical bevel with the same degree cut on either side. And I'm actually shocked by how many knives that I get that do not have the bevel angle consistent on either side of the knife. And it makes me question some of the processes that are involved in making knives. Okay, back to it again. What I don't think you saw me do, but I want to let you know that I did, because my point is here just to share the stuff that I'm doing, is I sighted down right here to see how the bevel was, whether it was center line between the thickness of the steel or getting pushed to one side or the other. And in this case, so because this side, actually that side's okay. This side is requiring quite a bit of cutting because it was a steeper bevel. I was grinding more off of here and pushing the bevel, the edge over to this side. So now I need to take some passes over here to push it back. So I just want to try to keep that edge centered. One of the guys in the guild asked this week what our opinions of the 3 most important things are. And I'm trying to get this image for you, which is really hard with this camera or any camera, right? Like, because what I'm trying to show you is that the edge is not built. I don't have a burr all the way down it. With this 120 grit belt, I am putting up a pretty mean burr here and here and here, but not here. There's no burr, and I can tell looking at it. I can see that bright spot. I know that I don't have my burr there yet. So that's why I'm still going. But I think it's from right, I can see it now from right here to right there. Just that section, I'm not putting a burr up. I can't stop until I got a burr up, man. The whole blade. I feel like that was a real big thing for me to learn. Like, yeah, if you don't get it, can you see that right there, that section? Yeah, look at that. See that bright spot? There's no, and then it walks away. There's no edge there. There's no apex. So we got to keep going. So that ended up being quite a bit of grinding, right? I'm happy with it though. Like it's a thick bevel, right? This way. They're pretty much the same on either side, right? Like that thickness when they're the same means that the edge is centered in the thickness of the steel. There is now a burr going up the whole way down. And one thing I wanted to call attention to is this was all slack belt grinding, not on the platen. And that's because I don't like how the platen can chip up some of these knives. So I will use the platen sometimes, but for a knife like this, I prefer to use the slack belt. And then as I was getting towards that spot, you might be inclined because you can see the bright spot on this side. So you might be inclined to just grind on this side in that spot. but now you're going to throw off the symmetry of your edge. So you saw me taking a pass down here, a pass down here. So even though that's the bright spot is on this side, when I take a pass here, it's removing steel. It's still helping me get that bright spot away. And as I'm getting close, I still need to take steel off of the whole knife so that I retain the geometry. Those are my thoughts on it anyway. Doing the best I can here. All right, let's go to the Edge Pro now. I almost just did this, but the point here is just that I'm editing them now, but I don't want to skip steps, right? So what I'm doing is the packing tape. In this case, I'm just running down the spine in the center, and then I'll fold it over on this blade. We're gonna see it. I was hoping this would work, right? So I don't need to tape the whole blade. I hope if I can just get it like that, that way I will not mar up the face of that knife. So let's set our table here. A couple bumps there. That maybe didn't work as well as I had hoped. Starting with my 220 stone, which is what I love about going to the belt first, is that now this, whatever stone I choose, it's going to put a burr up right away. But let's see. Ooh, that's thick, man. Wow. I mean, that's right about 21 right there. We might not get less than 21 unless I want to go back and hog off more material. Yeah, I mean, it's like exactly 21 coming off of the belt. So why don't we take a look at the whole edge here and see what it ends up looking like. That's crazy. Ooh, not even getting it. Not even getting it. What's the other side look like? This thing with these thick blades. A little off the 21 there. That's what I mean about switching the plan up like during the process, right? Like for me to get less than a 21 degree edge here, I gotta go hog off a lot of material on the 1x30. I actually might have to go up. I might go back to the 1x30 for up here because I'm way off. I'm grinding right at where the transition to the bevel is. But other than that, I mean, my hand was pretty much at 21 degrees down both sides. Well, I don't want to go less than that. I'm going to go back to the 1x30, and I'm going to cut a little bit more off, make this a little bit shallower. I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, no offense, but it is quite a bit faster without you staring at me. All right, but you'll see that the bevel's even bigger now, right? Ooh, baby, this is thick steel, man. Okay, so now we're still at 21 degrees. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, all right, and we're right. We are now at least down here, right at the very edge, and we're making it all the way around. Okay, so this is great. This will be a nice, at least on this side, a nice compound bevel. Talk myself into making a little bit more on the 1x30 there, but I think I'm not going to. I think I'm going to call that good. Okay, 220 grit, moving on up. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Did not set my collar for this thickness stone. Now I did. So when I go to my 600 grit stone, to go, see those marks? What causes those marks? I should give you a prize. If you know, leave a comment on what causes those marks on this stone from the last knife that I did. And I'll see if I can drum up a prize for you. Now the process I usually forget to show is the soapy water. I wash every knife before I send it home. I noticed the tape did leave a little mark there, so I want to spend a little time trying to clean that up. Okay. Dry it. This is what you should do at home too. When you're done with your knife, wash it by hand in the sink. You don't need to freak out about soap all the time. Like, you can if that's your thing. It's not my thing. I'm still here to tell you about it. Now, when I was drying it off, I noticed that sticky residue, which is usually why I like that blue tape from the postal office. It's because it doesn't leave the sticky residue on. In this case, it did. The best way I found to get that off is Glue Gun, which I don't like to use on cutlery, but I like using it more than I like sending a knife home with residue on. So I'm going to wash it again thoroughly. Yeah, here's a good one for you. I line them all up over here, right? When I'm doing, I do a bunch of knives at a time. When I like to shake the water off. I hold it with the edge up in the air and shake it off, because I've been that guy where I've held it with the edge down and I whack the sink or the spout or something and feel like an idiot. So you can learn that one from me. Or do it the hard way. That works pretty well too, as I'm sure you have discovered. All right, so this blade is pretty dry now. I'm going to take this is it. This is the Subaki oil. This is a monster. And I spray, I have it in another bottle with a dropper, so I just put a few drops on. This is a food safe oil, purposely built for protecting knife steel. A thin layer is all you need, right? So you wipe it in, then you wipe it all off. That thin layer is all you need to keep the edge from being exposed to oxygen. And for home care, if you think you won't be using your knife for a bit, maybe do this. I don't do it for like day to day, right? Because I'm using my knife 2 times a day anyway. Wash it, dry it, put it back in the block. Okay. All right, so I'm going to package that up and send that home. So I'll tell you what, man, like, this knife is not the perfect knife in my opinion for doing tomatoes. It's too thick for me, and it stays too thick until too far down here. But what we've come up with is the best that I can do. I hope it's hard to see here, sorry. Oh, maybe there, do you have that? It is a compound bevel. That's a good shot where you can see the primary grind, and then so this language gets messed up, right? The primary grind might be the grind of the knife, or it might be the grind of the bevel at the cutting edge, and that's a secondary bevel or a micro bevel. There's a lot of different lingos out there, and I'm sorry, I haven't really settled on one, but this is a compound bevel. That is the primary grind that I did on the belt. You can see that, and then where the difference is that it gets a little shinier, because that's where I went up to 2300 grit with the Edge Pro. Okay, that is that. Okay, well, I hope you liked that, sharpening that Damascus knife to sharp, 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 sharp. I feel like this turned out to be a long one, so there's probably going to be a lot of editing going into this and pulling out some stuff, but I still hope it's valuable. Do all those things that you know you're supposed to do, like subscribe and hit the bell and do all that, because it helps me grow my channel and it costs you nothing. If you do really want to support the work I do, if this does provide value to you in your life and you're going to go sharpen your own knife because of some of the skills you've used by watching this channel, first off, let me know. That's always fun and warming for me to hear. If you'd like to support me, there's a bunch of ways to do that, and they're all listed in the description below. And if you would like to invest in yourself and turn this skill into something that can generate revenue, make sure you go to guildofsharpeners.org. Check all that out. If you have any questions about any of it, make sure you reach out to me. My contact info is all over the place. Thank you.